what's going on right now in the Middle East, General Pannu? Are we dialing down on the threat of a war? As of 2 days back, a ground invasion appeared imminent, and now we're hearing a lot of talks of peace. President Biden is visiting, the German Chancellor is visiting Israel. So what's going on?
Sandeep, if you look at the small region, you can call it west or east. I think it lies between the two. That is why it keeps getting called Middle East. But the point here is that a small, strategically important area has been historically an area of conflict.
And a crossroads of civilization.
It is on the crossroads of civilization, through which also flows huge amount of sea traffic.
Right.
Using the Suez Canal. Having seen the developments which have happened over years, I think Jerusalem being the center point of focus for the religion, and then the areas of settlements which have come along over a period of time with Jews coming in, where the Palestinians were present in one way or the other, people can keep talking about, of their origin. And currently with the settlements in West Bank and Gaza, there have been ups and downs and pushes and pulls, politically, diplomatically, militarily. But on 7th October, what has happened has been unprecedented, because this attack by Hamas, which is also a ruling party, seen as a terrorist organization, has done something, I think, which is beyond anybody's expectation.
Right.
And I think more so, while the globe was surprised, I think Israelis themselves, who were supposed to be always watching across,
right,
were also surprised. And this is one big jolt, I suppose everybody has, more so the Israelis, because they were using technology, known for intelligence, but were completely surprised on a holiday when Hamas stuck with rockets and also physical ground attacks at a number of places in an unconventional way. So really, if you look at the stakeholders around, I think you can very clearly tier them. In the first tier is Hamas.
Right.
In the north, in the Lebanon, is the Hezbollah. You can say the Shia-Sunni complexions, but also there is a mix there, because supporters of Shias are Sunnis and Sunnis are Shias. Here, the whole story starts getting very complicated.
You used a very interesting term earlier when we were speaking. You said there's a lot of speed dating going on right now. Lots of people are moving around, leaders are moving around. President Putin has landed up in China and he's meeting Xi Jinping, their Chinese president, and then you have Joe Biden in the Middle East. And very interestingly, sir, he's visiting Jordan and Egypt, but not Saudi Arabia. Why do you think that's the case?
See, I think Saudi Arabia has been visited at the diplomatic level.
Right.
And
by Secretary Blinken.
Secretary Blinken has gone there.
Gone through the region, 7 visits.
Yeah.
And as many countries.
So either the political leadership or the diplomatic representation in the speed dating is trying to settle the matter.
Right.
Where the stakeholders being directly the Israelis and the Hamas in Palestine. But I think there are larger stakeholders on the outer tier.
Right, right.
And you look at, if you start from the south, Egyptians are stakeholders but passive,
right,
now active.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, onlooker but very concerned, because it has got deep repercussions on how they play up.
Right.
Jordan, in proximity very close, but I suppose in opinion little distant. Mm-hmm. Syria little more active, and Lebanon of course is right across, trying to do what worst can happen, I think would take advantage of it. So, but the distant tier, where you can look at is what the Russians are thinking and doing, and
China
what
and
the
Russia,
Chinese are
Beijing
thinking and doing.
The Beijing-Moscow axis.
Beijing-Moscow axis, and also the Indian outlook on the entire global affairs, the churn which has taken, because earlier people were only talking about one conflict in Ukraine.
Right.
And I think all of a sudden it has jerked the attention of the world away from Ukraine.
Right.
To Israel, Hamas, Gaza.
There's a potential second conflict.
And second conflict is now, I think, having a deeper concern on the outcome of any expansion which can happen. I think it can have very deep-rooted, immediate and long-term effect on the world. And I suppose this is now a priority sector for the entire world. That is where the whole concern lies.
Well, you know, President Biden was asked about this, about can the US handle two conflicts? And he said something that, you know, of course, we are the strongest country in all of history, you know, we can handle two conflicts. What do you think is the possibility of a third conflict breaking out? Possibly, as you said, the powers on the outside, Beijing is watching this very carefully. Do you think they'd make a move for Taiwan while the world is occupied with Ukraine and Russia and with the Middle East, Israel?
Certain things that does not meet the eye immediately.
Right.
Obviously, many strategic actions are beyond the visual range. So, who is a direct beneficiary of making America run from one quarter to another?
Right.
Is directly China, because China is actually in a race to cross America and claim the #1 slot in the world.
Absolutely.
Faster it does it, better it is.
They also have their Amrit Kal goal. We have an Amrit Kal goal of reaching a developed nation thing. I think their Amrit Kal goal is to outstrip the US.
Outstrip the US.
By 2048.
Absolutely. And if you really see how the Russian and the Chinese axis is developing, Iran more or less in the fold, Turkey opportunistic in that direction, the North Korea trains running to Russia, and certain amount of material which has already gone from Afghanistan, which is American, gone to the Palestine, Hamas.
Absolutely,
I think all that is visible is being spoken about.
Right.
And anything which is invisible is something that one can largely attribute to a good logic.
Right.
To say that maybe another front is ready only to test how far the Americans can run. Right. And if the Americans can run to all those quarters, I suppose matters would be settled. And I suppose whoever blinks first can also make a mistake. So it is an era where anybody who makes a strategic blunder will get trapped.
Absolutely. So this aim, as you said, is to make sure the Americans keep running and, you know, to test them out, to possibly even wear them out. So conflict, from the looks of it, the hectic diplomacy that's been underway in the last 48 hours, if not more, doesn't appear to be on the cards as of now. Right? I don't think it's a war, doesn't seem to be in anyone's interest. The kind of war that we are talking of is a war of annihilation. Your former colleagues that we were speaking to were saying the same thing, that look, the kind of operation that they see, a ground invasion, I mean, the kind of death toll that would result from a ground invasion would be in the tens of thousands. I mean, do you think that is one thing that's holding everyone back?
I think a couple of things are holding the forces of various countries back, and that too, when you talk about Israel, who actually declared that I am going to have a war which is on three fronts, that is three planes of ground, air and sea. Largely, the other players, direct military actors in this, are now Americans moving their two carrier groups in that area. Now, these strike groups are actually meant for deterrent, basically to prevent a war from happening. More they posture, better the outcome in limiting the conflict.
Right. So in this case, the Americans would move the strike groups, you think, to keep the Iranians away, to tell them, listen, don't interfere. Because I think the flying time from the Mediterranean to Iran, it's all the carrier strike group aircraft can fly to Iran and back.
I really wonder if the Iranians are ready for a conventional military involvement here.
Right.
Whatever will happen through proxy.
Which is what they've warned of, these proxies they're going to activate all over.
So if the proxies are to be kept under check, I think the presence of Americans are just about ensuring that A, we are watching, and secondly, we are ready to react. And I suppose they are looking from both sides certain conditions to be met, where either they can exchange the hostages. There are international hostages also. It is not only that the Israelis have the hostages.
The American hostages.
The American hostages are also there. So I suppose all the political dating and diplomatic dating is aiming to limit the conflict and settle the matter by returning the hostage
Right.
situation, bringing it back to where it was.
Right.
But I suppose the Palestinians in Gaza Strip, as
Right.
you say, Hamas,
Right.
and Palestinian people have had enough beating
Yeah.
already.
Right.